Most of the videos I've been making lately paint Destiny 2 in a bad light, but whilst it isn't in the greatest place at the moment, we have had a very big reveal for the game and what we can expect in the next season. And in my eyes, Bungie should definitely do this more often. They should probably leave like the last mission of the quest line for the new season to lead into the next season by giving us a hint of what to expect. So with that being said, I am going to be discussing a spoiler for the story, so if you haven't played all of the Season of the Deep story so far, then just be warned that I'm going to be discussing a spoiler that is pretty much very recent. But just to give you some time to dwell on that, the first thing I'm excited for in Season 22 is going to be the LFG Finder, being as you're finally able to group up with your fire team and not having to go through something like Discord in order to arrange stuff. But I'm going to be a bit skeptical on this because I also think this is going to break the game beyond recognition, because it is a very different kind of animal introduced into Destiny. So when I do say the LFG Finder, I fully anticipate it's not going to work very well in the first season, and we might not have it fully working until like Season 25, knowing Bungie's kind of work rate. But when it is actually finished and done, it will be a good tool in order to arrange teams to go and do the harder activities. So if you think things like the legendary difficulty, that is something you can do without any comms, so it's going to be easy just to arrange a fire team together and go out and tackle it. Naturally, I think it'll just be you join your fire team in orbit and then you can organize loadouts from there. Obviously, text chat is there to help when it comes to arranging builds and things like that, as well as speech in the game as well, but I do think Discord is still going to be used quite a lot, so there might be a lot of Discord invitations being flung around. But the most exciting thing I'm looking forward to when it comes to the LFG is that you can actually do dungeon runs with no comms whatsoever, because the dungeons aren't actually scaled up in difficulty like with the legendary stuff, so you can just tackle it with any build. You can swap your weapons on the fly, and as long as you know roughly what you're doing, or at least two people know what they're doing, they can carry the third person through very easily. Not to mention there are some people out there who are just cracked and can solo flawless everything, so that's also a big plus for them. But it's really good because it's going to allow a lot of the players that didn't manage to get around to doing the dungeons to actually experience them properly. But when you don't have a fire team to run with, or you don't have a clan, then you probably won't be running things like dungeons unless you're going to really try for the solo run. But then it's not as fun as what you can get when you do it in a group. But of course, for any of the master difficulty and above, it will probably require comms, so Discord is going to be very prevalent. But also, like I said, the in-game speech and text-to-speech might actually work out nicely. But now I'm going to lean into a bad thing, which is that the game is unstable at the moment. I'm not going to say badly unstable, that it's having really severe issues, because every time I've played it recently, it seems to have been fine. I just know there's a lot of people complaining about issues. But whenever Bungie adds something into the game, they seem to break something else. And I know there is a lot of moving parts with Destiny 2, with it being a live service game and all, but honestly, I don't see how you can implement one quest to then make an exotic break everything. I don't know how you code a game to work like that, but I'm not the devs who made it, so I can't speak on that. So we are probably going to see another exotic freak out and break something in the game, like let's say, for example, a certain exotic that was able to turn a strand barricade into a solo one and pretty much give you an automatic win in Iron Banner. Whilst it probably won't be that severe, I do think there's going to be an exotic or two that go a bit wacky, so test all your exotic weapons and all your exotic armor, because there's going to be something that's busted in the new season. But let's go into the spoiler. So I've given you loads of time to think about if you want to keep watching or not. So the spoiler is, Sloane got possessed by Asa before being possessed by Siva Arath, and went on like this warmongering speech, but then she finally revealed that the Witch Queen must rise, and let's face it, we pretty much all saw this coming. Probably not in the season in the context of what we got it, but we knew that Savathun was going to come back at some point, because Amaro didn't die whatsoever, he just kind of got taken away by the Traveler's Light, and Final Shape just seems like it's gearing up for an Avengers style finale, which I don't rate Bungie for ripping this off, but I do like the idea of being able to cruise around with the Lucent Hive and being able to run through strikes with them. But the thing is, we don't know if she's going to straight up join our side. She could even remain a neutral party for all we know, just in the interest of stopping the Witness. But if it's any kind of trend to go off in the past, then we can look at the Elixir and the Cabal. We basically had to do a season of where we're trying to get them to join our side, and then towards the end of the season, they'll pretty much just with us straight away. And whilst it sounds exciting to have the Lucent Hive on our side and actually growing into like some kind of weird army of just everything, something I am very concerned about is Bungie's bring back the challenge kind of nonsense they're going on with, and needlessly amping up the difficulty when it doesn't need to be. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the seasonal activities are probably going to get hit by this the most, and they are going to be somewhat enjoyable to start with, but then become absolutely unbearable later on in the season, pretty much how the deep dives turned out. And it still does baffle me that Bungie managed to turn a kind of interesting activity into an absolute car crash nightmare. At the start it was okay, but then when they started introducing the deep dive levels and the unnecessary amp of difficulty, and then decided to stack an exotic mission on top of that, I don't know if they just let the interns run around on that one, because that was a really stupid decision. But finally, we have the returning raid, and whilst quite a few people were hoping for Wrath of the Machine, myself included, it's highly likely we're going to be getting Crota's End. Being as the season is going to be based on the Hive, it just makes sense for that to be Crota's End. But one thing I am very concerned about is that Bungie will completely screw this up. With how easy Root of Nightmares was, I would not be surprised if Bungie overcorrects itself for its raid and makes the boss unbelievably tanky. Like, take for example the Ghost of the Deep boss, but then triple the health, because that kind of ridiculous just makes sense for Bungie. Not to mention in contest mode, I'm thinking we might possibly have a last wish situation where the world's first clear will take a long time to get, and that's not because of difficulty, that'll be because the health pool is so ridiculous that even the most coordinated fire teams with full meta builds and weapons will even struggle to get it completed if it's even possible. Of course, I hope I'm just being overly concerned with this, but this is Bungie we're talking about, and their version of bringing the difficulty is always adding more ad density and then adding more boss health, because that seems to be the only way they can do any kind of game development nowadays. But I want to leave the video on a positive note. So because the next season is going to be about the Hive, I'm quite excited about this. If it's anything to do with how the Witch Queen was set out for us, then there is no real fear when it comes to the storytelling, but I know I'm comparing a DLC to a season here. I just hope Bungie kind of looks back on how they did the Witch Queen and then use that to work off this. I know Season 22 is probably already made and done by now, but it's pretty much clear that Season of the Defiant and Season of the Deep, when it comes to storytelling anyway, hasn't been the greatest, and if anything, it seems to be in a weird middle point at the minute, so I'm hoping this next season will take it up again and ramp us up towards the final shape. But that's just my thoughts and opinions of why I'm excited and obviously terrified of Season 22. Let me know what yours are down in the description below, I'm always happy to hear them, and of course leave a like on the video, but for now, I shall see you all in the next one.